This evening, let's explore concentration, mindfulness, and meditation. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. This is the Lama you are looking for. This evening, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as Luke Skywalker learned to do on Dagobah under the guidance of Yoda, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Oh, that's weird. Okay, give me a second here. Going to hit button 5 and adjust my side monitor. Okay. Fabulous. All right, here we go. Once again, this evening we could explore concentration, mindfulness, and meditation that you too could meditate like a Jedi. If at any point during this evening's live stream you have a question about meditation, philosophy, or even chanting, do not be shy. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. If you're watching a replay and you have a question, you may want to type it in the comment area below or in the using the Patreon link, whichever you prefer. Testing, testing. Okay, well, welcome to the Cabinet of Oddities. Okay, so G on Reddit asked, does meditation require concentration? G continued, do you concentrate, focus on not thinking, or do you essentially just chill, not thinking, for standard mindfulness practice? Here is my response. By the way, so this is a wonderful, wonderful example, and I'm not trying to be cruel or anything like that, but I'm trying to be helpful. Sometimes we are a prisoner of our own preconceptions. It is as if we're getting ready to sprint, but we've tied a chain to our leg. And then when we take off from the running blocks, we wind up on our face and we wonder why. And then we blame the subject matter. So all of us sometimes are guilty of grasping with white knuckle intensity at our preconceptions. Notice this question here. The preconception, the assumption is that one must, that not thinking is a constant. That one either focuses on not thinking or one just chills into not thinking. And now I'm going to essentially invite the person to let go of the concept of not thinking. For choosing not to think is an act of indulging our controlling tendencies. So let us pretend there is a dichotomy between concentration and mindfulness. And the path of concentration is marked with rigidity, fear, controlling tendencies, elitism, and competition. Whereas the path of mindfulness is marked by being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, and cooperative. So two different paths. Now here's the irony. This path, this rigid path, does not lead to peace. It leads to many places. Peace is not one of them. The only path that I have found that leads to healthy, sustainable, contagious peace is this path. The path of being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, and cooperative. And now, the formal response. In a world where concentration is confused with mindfulness, meditation is seen as a font of frustration and consternation. But what could be the difference between the two? where concentration is defensive, active, intellectual, and rigid, mindfulness is vulnerable, passive, visceral, and spontaneous. Consider eyesight. When we switch from foveal vision to peripheral vision, we are going from one neurological circuit to another. The Buddha's path is one of vulnerability and release. I've got some slobber on the screen, which is quite unbecoming. It is a path of letting go, and concentration is its opposite. So embrace the vulnerability and spontaneity of Qui-Gon Jinn, that you too could meditate like a Jedi. Excuse me, I must blow my nose. It's that time of year, folks. Sound like a baby elephant, don't I? Okay. Before we chant and meditate, let us spend approximately 15 seconds on housekeeping. If there are lessons you'd like to request, or if you simply wish to support the continued availability of these classes, there is a Patreon link in the description area below the video. Okay. I'm going to tap button 9. And take us to this evening's practice text, which should be available, hopefully, either within 3 hours or 15 hours. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate... Never mind. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Okay, so someone asks, what is the difference mindset between Jedi and Sith Master? Okay, good question. That's a wonderful question, and it's really interesting. I'm going to answer it first by pushing buttons. I'm going to push button number 5. Here we go. And hopefully, there we go. Okay. So, there are many, many differences, but I want to give you a hook to hang your hat on. And so this answer can be drawn from various translations of the 81 chapters, 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching, attributed to Lao Tzu, approximately 100 years before the advent of the Buddha. When we look at the archetypical Sith Lord, and the one that comes to mind is, let's take Darth Vader from Episode 4, A New Hope. Our second exposure to Darth Vader is when he is communicating with Princess Leia. And she protests, and I'm going to do a terrible imitation, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have an eidetic memory. She says, we're on a diplomatic mission. And Vader's response is to contradict. You are a rebel and a spy. And you can feel his rigidity and the staccato of his delivery. This is, to remember the name of the guy who voiced Vader. James Earl Jones was no spring chicken. He'd had many years of theatrics under his belt. He knew how to deliver lines. He deliberately delivered that in a staccato, one-dimensional way, reminiscent of a serial villain from yesteryear, the cinema of yesteryear. And that's a wonderful example of being rigid and controlling and competitive. Think now to Star Wars, the Clone Wars. I'm not sure what season it was, maybe 6, maybe 7, when Sidious confronts Maul and Maul's apprentice. And he says there can only be one apprentice. That is elitism. And look at Maul's reaction to Sidious after Sidious kills Savage Opress. Fear. Despite the multiple decades of meditation training that Maul had received, he was still a slave to fear. This is the path of the Sith. Now, there are many, many Jedi. Some are very, very close to the ideal of what a Jedi should be, and some are inching closer and closer, whether they know it or not, to this path. Now, one of the things that really shocked me about the prequels was how there was a great difference between Yoda of Episode 1 and Yoda of Episode 5. Not just that he was older, but there was a huge difference in his character. A difference that was revealed in the final reel of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when Yoda sees that he had been blinded and that the discorporeal or non-corporeal Qui-Gon Jinn would help to retrain Yoda. And so we see that Qui-Gon Jinn from Episode 1 was flexible and loving and laid back and egalitarian and cooperative. When we look at Mace Windu, when we look at the guy with the two brains, Ki-Adi-Mundi, I think that's his name. I have trouble pronouncing it. We look at Ki-Adi-Mundi. When we're looking at Clone Wars, there was this green chick. Her Jedi master was very rigid. The more rigid a Jedi becomes, even though they think they serve the light, they are inching the way towards the dark, whether they know it or not. That's one of the great ironies, is that you can have the best of motivations, but if your methodology draws upon rigidity, fear, controlling tendencies, elitism, and renders you competitive, despite the best of intentions, you're going to be a yellow-eyed Sith. Whether you know it or not, that is the direction you're being led. And so we see that amongst the Jedi, they really thought they were serving the light, but they had become very, very far. Most of them had become very far from flexibility, love, being acquiescent, egalitarian, and cooperative. So despite the color of one's robes or the color of one's eyes, it depends upon whether you choose a yang path or a yin path, patriarchy or matriarchy, whether you were choosing an aggressive path or a gentle path. And I'd like to take this a step further. The world has changed a lot since I was but a lad, and I'm very grateful for that. My gender has been very, very bad towards the female gender for a very long time. And I'm very glad that we're learning and we're evolving. When I was a little boy, parents, mother, stepfather, media, literature taught me that that rape was wrong and seduction was okay. Rape is a physical violation of someone's autonomy. No, I don't want to make love with you. Tough, I'm going to copulate with you anyway. But seduction is using someone's own body against their own will and causing them to violate their own autonomy so that you can have your way with them. That is an act of violence. It's not being laid back. It's not being flexible. It's not being loving. It's not being acquiescent. It's any form of manipulation, any form of trying to control anything, anywhere, anytime, is a form of violence. Now, someone might say, well, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to be doormats? Here's the funny thing. When we get really good at meditation, not concentration, but meditation, a fringe benefit is that our choices and our utterances and deeds are no longer scattered, and our choices, utterances, and deeds are no longer rigid and following an agenda. They flow not from a scattered spontaneity, but from a centered spontaneity. And as meditation, effective meditation becomes part of our lives, more and more we're able to dance our way through life, metaphorically speaking. Allow me to illustrate with an example from my own life. Due to a really unfortunate childhood, I endured great abuse. And it was explained to me that anybody who survives a certain level of abuse becomes like catnip for other predators. It's like blood in the water. And I found myself in a toxic adult relationship. I needed to extricate myself. I knew I needed to get out. I didn't know how, because I didn't want to be cruel. I wanted to find the middle point. I wanted between being so assertive I was cruel and so gentle I was stuck. I needed to find the skillful point. So I meditated. The toxic individual entered my aura, walked past me, and instantly the words just came out. They weren't cruel, but they were also non-ambiguous. So in my own life, that was an example of my utterance flowing from centered spontaneity. If you ever watch a really good martial arts movie, you'll see a martial arts master fight in a very relaxed way. If they slip a strike or a kick, they only move a few inches. Their eyes are just focused. They're engaging their peripheral vision. They're in a place of just flow. So a truly centered flow state is exemplified by the Star Wars prequel character Qui-Gon Jinn. There is a scene that I remember, I may be remembering it incorrectly, from episode 1, where the Padawan is anxious and he presents the problem to his master, and Qui-Gon Jinn says, "I counsel patience, the solution will present itself." He didn't say, well, if we work really hard, we'll find a solution. No, he said, if we are centered and surrendered, the solution will present itself, which is the ideal Jedi archetype. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comment area. I'm sorry, the chat window. And now, I'm re-tapping button 9, checking the time, 21 minutes after the hour. Wow, I am just drowning in mucus. Oh my goodness, I am the mayor of mucus at your service. Let's chant the Heart of Wisdom Sutra. Let's do this. Let's use a percussive chant. Usually I use a bookend chant, but I think it might be fun with this text to use a percussive chant. And since I don't have any tchotchkes here, I don't have a fish or a frog to use, I'm just going to use a golf clap in front of my rib cage. The enlightening being who notices the cries of the world while moving in the deep peace of perfect understanding. Shed light on the 5 aggregates and found them equally empty. After this realization, she overcame all pain. So overcome here does not mean there was no more pain. It simply means that she was free, not from the presence of pain, but from the tyranny of pain. Listen, Shariputra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form does not differ from emptiness, emptiness does not differ from form. The same is true with feeling, appraisal, impulse, and awareness. Listen, Shariputra, all phenomena are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither corrupted nor purified, neither increasing nor decreasing. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no appraisal, no impulse, no awareness. No sensation, no flavor, no scent, no sound, no sight, no phenomena. No body, no tongue, no nose, no ears, no eyes, no mind. No feeling, no tasting, no smelling, no hearing, no seeing, no noticing. No interdependent origins and no extinction of them from confusion to old age and death. No stress, no exacerbation, no liberation, no path, no understanding, no attainment. So, quick explanation. If this is your first time chanting the Heart of Wisdom Sutra, it could seem a bit opaque. It is not designed to be that way. And if anybody tells you it is, they're sadly mistaken. It seems opaque because it's highly metaphoric. It's highly figurative. So after multiple decades spent reverse engineering the Buddhist teachings, allow me to clear things up for you. When we say emptiness, it's part of a saying. Whatever we notice as we breathe in, when we start breathing out and relaxing, that same thing could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, a simile is only as effective as it is relatable. So, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the grasp? So now we know what emptiness. Emptiness is just a figure of speech for being non-graspable. Whatever. So as we breathe in, we access our sympathetic nervous system. As we breathe out, we access our parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nerve, the inhalation sympathetic nervous system is wired to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, spontaneously. Our exhalations, the parasympathetic nervous system, is wired to physically relax, to physically let go, and to mentally release. And it creates the sensation that what we were just perceiving is now, to a certain degree, less tangible. Now, there's not a mystic truth that needs to be realized or believed. Simply playing with our autonomic nervous system, which is so primal, it's not even actually centered in our brain, it's in our spinal cord. It's the key to letting go. If you ever have a teacher who says, well, you can't let go until you've jumped through all these hoops, that's because they're mistaken. The Buddhist practice is so fundamental and so easy, it can be mastered not only in 7 years, or 7 quarters, or 7 months, or 7 fortnights, or 7 weeks, but even 7 days. That doesn't mean you'll never experience any type of pain ever again. It simply means you will no longer be controlled by your reactions to pain, physical or emotional. You'll be perceptive of them, but your choices and utterances and deeds will no longer be their slaves. The second noble truth infers that although there are stressors, our stressors are always made worse by our controlling tendencies to shove or reach or cling. These are our primal drives, our pre-human primal drives, our pre-mammalian primal drives. Ancient. As mammals, we have a secondary reward system that's oxytocin-oriented, and it rewards us for fulfilling relationships, professional and personal and platonic and intimate. And those two primary drives and secondary drives are in conflict with each other, making us nuttier than a shithouse rat. So, the Buddha's path of contemplation and enthusiasm and kindness and love and mindfulness and letting go helps us to be the healthy, well-adjusted people that our dogs already think we are, and our cats are impatient for us to become. Let's continue. Because there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas supported by the perfection of understanding find no obstacles for their minds. This is figurative, so it's not that there's no literal attainment, it's that figuratively whatever attainment we receive as we breathe out and relax can feel non-graspable. Having no obstacles, they overcome fear, liberating themselves forever from illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. All Buddhas of the past, present, and future, thanks to this perfect understanding, arrive at full right and universal enlightenment. Therefore, one should know that perfect understanding is a great mantra, is the unequaled mantra, the destroyer of all suffering, the incorruptible truth. A mantra of prajna paramita should therefore be proclaimed. This is the mantra gate gate para samgate bodhiswaha. Gone, gone completely, and perfectly gone to enlightenment. May it be so. Our go-to meditation is simply notice this, relaxing. When we feel turmoil, we contemplate the rhetorical question, this and that, how not to. But this is our main course. Here is the natural path. As you breathe in, you notice things. As you breathe out, you let go of things. I used to have a student who would always ask, should I let go of that? Should I let go of that? Answer is let go of everything as you breathe out and pick it back up as you breathe in, if that is what is best from a place of centered spontaneity. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness were spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from stress, may everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel I have approximately 10.5 hours, we could explore love as its own reward, as well as chant and meditate some more. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.